Tuned in. I'm Shelley Harder, and today I'll be chatting with Alice Fookes, with whom we'll get to hear a bit more about the partnership between Poets Versus and UN Women UK. Then after Alice, I'll chat with Jihyun Park, a human rights and women's rights activist, and we'll also get to hear her perform a couple pieces from the Poets Versus Sexual Harassment anthology. So just a brief introduction about Alice before we dive into that conversation with her. Alice Fookes is a part-time English teacher and committed feminist. She is part of UN Women UK, a trustee of the National Alliance of Women's Organisations, a member of the Centenary Action Group, and a member of the All-Parliamentary Party Group on North Korea. So it's my deepest pleasure to invite Alice Fookes to join our live feed. Hey, how are you doing today?
Hi, doing well, thank you. So exciting to be part of this. Really amazing. I feel honoured.
It's fantastic to have you here with us today. You've been such a wonderful supporter of Poets Versus for the last few months. I can't overemphasize just how brilliant it's been to have you so thoroughly behind our backs with moving this initiative forward. So what was it about Poets Versus?
It's so clear as to what you do. There's no muddle, no mixed messages. It advocates for safe spaces, and you act as a beacon, providing a safe platform for women, but also those from a variety of gender identities, racial backgrounds, and sexualities. From what I experience, it's wholly inclusive and enabling. Also, by giving a different topic each time, this time it's Poets Versus against sexual harassment, it gives focus and a permission to talk about stuff that poets have witnessed or suffered. Sometimes we need that setting, that safe setting to do that. I also like the fact that Poets Versus does the boring stuff, the checks and balances behind the scenes, so that an event like this is safe and strong with its code of conduct, which I think is so important. And it gives confidence to the wonderful participants that it is secure and at the same time free, and it actually offers all the participants wings to fly. I really do believe that. So thanks for the question.
You've been talking about the importance of safe spaces, and obviously that's something that is very central to what we're doing here at Poets Versus. How do you think that poetry spaces and platforms can create safe spaces for women and non-binary individuals?
Well, I kind of feel that a poetry offers people a language to test their voices, and it builds confidence because you can use images to express what perhaps other words can't. You can build up in images, and I just think it's also great for people trying to find their own voices to be with poets, because they tend to be creative, supportive, and inclusive. And it also allows us as poets, I used to write a bit of poetry myself, a little bit, yes, to inform others. You can use images and you can try with words to share an experience with other people who may be completely unfamiliar, and they just don't need, sometimes people are very frightened of the really heavy stuff because they don't know how to deal with it. But through images, they can build up what's really been happening, and they can take as much as they can deal with at a time. I think that's a very good thing. Also, I think poetry offers a sense of equality to those who are trying to find their voices. There's nothing like joining a group like this to feel I'm not alone, there are other people also trying. And maybe for people who've been silenced for years, it's like dipping a toe in the water and to suddenly find you're in the company of like-minded, very supportive individuals. And poets tend to inspire people to have a go, like Poets Versus. So I would just say together we're all stronger. I think that people who are trying to find their voices, who feel on the margins, on the edges, never listened to, I think one of the most empowering things is to suddenly find you're with a crowd of people who actually are there to swim with you, like dolphins. You know, one empowers another. And I think people are quite shocked by that experience. they're like, wow, is there a space for me? Yes, there is. It's lovely. Wonderful.
What do you think that literary organizations and platforms should do to ensure that those voices are able to express themselves safely?
Well, I do think they need to take a few lessons from Poets Versus about doing the background checks and balances, because to have a safe platform isn't just to wish to have a safe platform, you actually have to make it. And that's why I think it's really important that the people who join this evening, for example, are not let down by what they think they're coming to. And actually, I think so many have joined because they know that they're coming to something that is tried and tested and that they have faith in. And for many people who maybe have lost faith in other people and what other people can deliver, it's critical. I really think it's critical.
In your preface, you point out on this topic of safe spaces, you point out statistics that point to the fact that the world's not a safe place at large for many women and non-binary individuals. In terms of what can be done to alleviate that, what do you think we should be doing generally, and what is UN Women UK specifically doing?
Well, what I really like about UN Women, and I've been a member since 2006, is that UN Women are very timely. So they're not trying to deal with last year's problems, although they're working on those, but they're also alert to what's happening now and the effect of COVID-19 on women and girls, and all others on the margins as well, who feel nobody's listening to them. We are very conscious of that. And what we have done in the UK is we've set up on our website, UN Women UK, the Everyday Allyship platform, which is asking everybody to take part in a survey. So if after this event you think, what can I do? I really want to do something. Well, the first thing you can do is, it would be wonderful if you could go to the UN Women UK website and take part in that survey. Because one of the things we found we don't have at this time of pandemic is enough disaggregated data by gender. If we don't have that information, how can we ask for things that women and girls or particular groups need if we don't have the data to back it up? It sounds boring, but I've learned over the years that it's just so important to be able to convince governments. I'm afraid governments take a lot of note from statistics. So that's one place to start. I also like the fact that UN Women, last year, we had, for the first year, we used the United Nations platform to hold the first high-level meeting on gender diversity and non-binary identities. We offered a safe platform to trans and non-conforming individuals to speak out and call on the United Nations and the global community to protect their human rights. In so many countries, those groups are very much at risk and they just disappear. So this is why it was such a big deal for the United Nations to embrace this whole area. And our leader of UN Women, Pamzuli Myambo Nguka, she said, the United Nations has a unique voice to support the human rights and fundamental freedoms of all people, especially those who may have their backs against the wall. We speak up against human rights violations everywhere, so it's natural for us to support the LGBTI agenda. Women and people with non-binary gender identities must have their own spaces in which to speak, to exercise power, to act and to own and drive their own movement. And that's what I love about UN Women. They're not saying, we're not doing too, we're listening to what people are saying. And I think what people were saying was we need a safe space at United Nations international level, because it's not just happening here, it's all over the world at the moment, particularly. So just a few pointers about why I'm still with UN Women UK and UN Women.
Would you tell us a bit about your journey to becoming part of UN Women UK and your political activism more broadly? As that introduction at the beginning, you're involved in many
well, it comes with age. You get a bit of experience, so your face gets around a bit. But I really had I was a adult education teacher of English, and I was also working in the community, and I got to meet a wide range of students. One of my students in 2006 suffered an acid attack from family members not 5 minutes from where I'm sitting here talking to everybody this evening, because she was blamed for an arranged marriage that had gone wrong. And she had never learnt to read and write, even though she had lived in this country for 16 years. And she was really a bit of a secret, a family secret. But she had to bring her son to school by law. And that's when we met her. And I just thought, I've got to do something. I've got to get out of my zone. I've got to learn. I've got to just make a change and do it with the memory of this woman taking her veil off and her face. And I just thought this will stay with me forever. So I decided that if I was going to give up my time and effort, I wanted to make a difference to a lot of women, not just to one, although that's important. So I decided that UN Women, it was called UNIFEM in those days, was the best organisation for me because it works internationally, nationally and locally. And also I like the fact that UN Women is described as the voice of women at the United Nations. Since 1945, we've had that conduit, we've fought for it, we're still marching for it. And even in today's world, we have to hold on to it because it's actually at risk. But that's a whole other story, which I'm sure the people taking part in this tonight know a great deal about. I also like the fact that UN Women takes on the difficult challenges, not just giving people a safe space to live, enough food, although that's really important, but we actually believe in moving women out of poverty, not helping them in their poverty. So there's a great deal of action, push, with very little money to do this. But really, I think I feel I've never been disappointed, and I've been able to go to the Commission on the Status of Women in New York to take the voices of people like one of the poets this evening, Jihyun, who's going to be giving one of her poems, to tell her story to the highest level internationally, because unless the big politicians, the international politicians hear these stories, change will never really happen. And I'm a great believer in making change that actually has bite to it, that it really, governments sit up and listen, and that it's not just putting in laws because they want to trigger a funding stream. Actually, UN Women is a really good checker to make sure that laws are in place. And we do that by training those around who have to implement the laws, such as local police forces, who sometimes just don't understand about gender. It's just not in their culture. It's a norm that they've grown up with. So one of the things UN Women does a lot around is gender responsive policing. And where we've done that, it's made such a difference. So I don't want to go on too long, but those are the kind of things that fire me up every day.
Right. Yes. Well, it's been so lovely to chat with you, Alice, to hear more about the work you're doing with UN Women, and just to give everyone an opportunity to hear in more detail what this partnership between Poets Versus and UN Women UK is all about. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. It's a huge pleasure. Thank you.
So I am going to quickly introduce Jihyun Park, who is one of the poets in our Poets Versus Sexual Harassment anthology. Jihyun is a human and women's rights activist who won the NatWest Chairman AWA Award in 2018 and the Amnesty Brave Award in 2020. It's an absolute honor to invite Jihyun Park to join us. Hello, Jihyun. How are you doing today? It's such a pleasure to have you here with us today. And I thought to start off, would you tell us a bit about yourself?
I was born in North Korea, and I escaped North Korea twice. Once in 1998, when North Korea was massive bombing, and at that time was 3 million people died of starving. So same as me with starving. So I left North Korea with my younger brother. So when I left North Korea, I thought that maybe next country in China is a green place for us. But the ones in China, I was human trafficking, sent to Chinese to my younger brother. So I was sent back to North Korea, and I still don't know that he's alive or not. 6 years after, I also sent back to North Korea, and I sent to prison. I stayed in prison. So I was tortured and punished, imprisoned in there. So 6 months after, my condition was really bad, and I almost dead. So they released me in prison, and I escaped again North Korea. So in 2008, I arrived in the UK, and now I live in there, and I am human rights activist work.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And why did you choose to participate in Poets versus Sexual Harassment?
I usually myself write poems. It's the normal days because myself a human rights activist, and I share my stories and in countries human rights issues in publics. But this public is only limited people attend because who are only interested in these issues, and anybody is much interested. But writing poem or writing stories, and many people reading and they share their families, friends. So that is really good. Is the place we shared our painful stories to people. So that's why I used this play is the poet in this. Yeah.
Well, I'm delighted that you chose to participate because I love your poems. They're so beautiful, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, this is also different activities work in writing poet. Yeah, poem.
So you don't only write poems. There's a book that you co-authored titled De Jihyun, excuse my French pronunciation, which in English translates as Two Korean Women, and that was published in 2019 in France. A blurb for the book mentions that you offer us a lesson in life and will, sober and without pathos. Could you tell us a bit about what De Jihyun is about and what the process of writing it was?
Before I mentioned that I left North Korea in 1998 first time. I arrived in China, and the Chinese people called it to us "被求钱, 被求钱." That is really painful to us because they looked to us not just human. They looked to us only slavery or sex toys or just only this is workers. Yeah. So, but no one helped to us. And also I arrived in the UK in 2008. And in the UK also many people don't know this, where is the North Korea. They only know that is South Korea. So people, many people, they don't know there is North Korea also countries because they never heard about this country. So in 2011, when Kim Jong-il died, and also is the world media published about the Kim Jong-il's millennium or something that, and then Kim Jong-un is started president in North Korea, and he usually is provoke the missiles and nuclear weapons test. So after people only knew that missiles, nuclear weapons, and also it's bad guys in president in North Korea, and people never know that is North Korean people. So it's really heavy heart for me because there's North Korean people, but we are not anybody's. We are also same human and the same as you, but no one memorized these people. So that is the first reasons why I writing this book. And the second reason that is in our world, many invisible people lived in there, especially women. And usually myself is a refugee in here. So many people think about the refugees. We are all weakness people. But myself, refugees in here, my life, I just look back at my life. I never weakness. I always fight evils, and I found that my freedom is myself. So we are women and also all refugees, not weakness. We are stronger than evils and the dictators. So that's why I'm writing book.
Thank you for that. What was the process like co-writing it with someone else? Did you work closely together to write together?
Yes, yeah. She also lives in the UK, and me and the co-writer writing book
Right.
about the 4 years. Not it's a short time. We writing long time. It's myself think about my past life. That is really pain, and I just think about the many people they never met North Koreans and they never heard about the North Korean voice right in here. So my book is explained their voice and also their life, describing everything. So that's why that is a long times, and I choose Korean writer. The reasons that we are is emotions totally is Korean emotions is totally different in European people, and the life also different. So I choose the Korean, and also I also teaching to Korean people first because my co-writer is South Korean, and she didn't know too much about the North Korean's life. So I first, so
Okay, yeah.
she's understand the life and she share our life to another people.
That sounds like an extraordinary and very rich collaboration. Yes. Would you tell us about the organization Connect North Korea and about the work that you do
Connect
there?
North Korea is based in London, and we opened this group is in 2018. So before this group is the European Alliance for Human Rights in North Korea. Is we worked about the human rights issues, but we changed the names. The reasons that in the UK is now almost 800 North Korean refugees in here. So many people is the same as me. We don't know the English and also in UK's cultures, everything is we don't know. So many people, their life in the UK sometimes really hard because they don't get the more information from government or society or some groups. So we opened this, launching this Connect to North Korea, these groups in 2018 because we connect North Korean refugees who lived in the UK. So we teaching to them English, and we also have them social workers. Example is housings or the hospital workers, school letters explained, or home office letters, council letters is translated to them. So now in Connect North Korea, we have got 20 volunteer teachers joined to us. So they teaching to North Korean refugees every day. So now is a pandemic day. So they continue the meeting the students by online, and they continue the teaching them. So I'm really thankful for my volunteer teachers and also my director, Michael Glendini, because he continued to help North Korean refugees. So my director also funding, he got the funding in pandemic times, and he helped North Korean refugees, supported to them by food or something that he had to them. So many North Korean refugees really helped them, and I'm really happy and thankful for them.
That sounds like very rewarding work that you're doing. So you've shared your story in documentary form, for example, with Amnesty International. It's a very powerful story. But why do you write poems? And what aspects of experience does poetry specifically allow you to express and explore?
Because my stories speak to myself, but I had seen many starving people and torture people is advanced in North Korea and also in prison. And also, I've seen many human trafficking women in China. So first, when I came to the UK in 2008, but the first few years, I never thought about that is in future I became human rights activities or I write poems because I never heard about what is human rights and the women's rights. I never heard when I lived in North Korea and also in China. But one day is my son asked me questions. Mommy, why did you abandon me and leave me? So this question is changed my life because when I sent back to North Korea, that time my son was only 5 and he alone in China and I sent back to North Korea. So me and my son is separated in that time. So my 5 years old child didn't know that's why his police caught my mother and why my mother didn't come home. So it was his questions, but I didn't know until he was 12. So first time I seen another person's painful stories. That is my son. Because I am mother, but I didn't know that is my son's painful stories. So this question is changed my life. Then I started human rights activities. And also sometimes I sit down in my chair and I just is back to my life. And, this, I just is seen many starving people, women, and also mothers and doctors. So I just is writing down, memorize to them because in the future, hope one day, maybe I say that is, I didn't forget yours. I always remembered yours. That is, this, maybe I forget to them. I'm really sorry. This bison is also is my country people. So that's why I write in poems. I just memorized and I share it. This is all over the world who don't know about this kind of situations. So that's why I write it.
Do you have one or two of your poems with you that you would be willing to read for us?
Yes, today I choose 2 poems. So one poem is when I saw mother and daughter in stations, they almost dead, but mother is holding her daughter. So I just still memorize to them. So tonight I just hope message to mother and daughter.
Thank you.
To be a mother. Beneath my slender shoulders, my bosom dries out. No tears to shed, no sheep to give you. My womb is your beginning and end. Although we know that you could not survive the instant you came on this world. I'm sorry, my child. All I could give you was the place in my heart. My only desire to feel your breath on mine. My child, the 2 of us are withering away in this bitter land, but my love for you will never change. With my last breath, I say, farewell, my child. Let us meet again in heaven. Thank you. And the second poem is that is not is invisible woman. I send these messages to every people in this world. Please welcome to this invisible people. Because when I arrived in the UK, many UK people told me that welcome to the United Kingdom. So when I heard this word welcome, I cried because this world is given to me hope, opportunity, challenges, and a new life in here. So please welcome to all invisible people, and please is your hand open to them. So it's my second poem. Is, who are they? Do you know the meaning of be heard? Only the wind has known the hurt of heart. My mouth can't say anything. My eyes can't see anything. Everybody pretended to know, but nobody helps me. Who are listening to me? Who are seeing me? I'm scared this darkness. Thank you.
Thank you. I feel the desire to sit quietly with those words rather than to keep talking. I don't have words to describe what it is you do in your poems and where you take me. Is there a literary tradition or other poems that you draw on?
Different poems because when I stayed in prison and one pregnant woman lost her baby because North Korea government not accepted this child because many North Korean women human trafficking in China. So it's the baby is the baby in Chinese men. So that's why North Korean government never accepted this child. So they usually tortured this pregnant woman, or is they killed the unborn baby in front of mothers. So myself, the woman, and I saw kind of these tortures in front of me. So I still remember this. I wrote a lot of different poems. Yeah, describing the subject.
Yeah, the vividness of the emotion of them is so potent. Thank you for sharing. It's very generous of you. A couple more questions. I was going to ask you. You said that when you came to the UK and what that word welcome meant for you, but now as a North Korean refugee and a woman living in the UK, what challenges do you see in your life these days? What's it like for you now?
This first is myself. You know that I can speak English now. That is a big change to my life. You know, when I came to the UK, I didn't know any English. So usually people ask in the morning, in our street, the people asked me, "How are you?" But I didn't understand what mean that, and I never communicated with English people. I really scared. But you know now, I speak English. I know it's still the problems, but every day I learning English and it changed my life. So that is a big challenges for me. And the second, the issue that is that I never smiled because in North Korea, same, in China, same. But now is I changed my life and I usually smiling with people and eye contacted with people. And also I improved a lot of skills myself and I have reading lots of English book or it's the columns, everything is changed my life. So in the UK, many North Korean females, so they also changed lots of different life because in North Korea, we never choose our dreams because only government choose to us jobs or our dreams too. But in here, it's many women choose their dreams and they have to learn. And they now is got the certifications, and graduated some colleges. Yeah, so happy life in here. So I'm so happy when I see my people is changing their life. Yeah.
So I had one more question I wanted to ask you. What do you see for your future, and do you have new projects
Oh,
coming
yeah,
up?
I continued the sharing our human rights issues in all over the world. And I now is, the pandemic times, I thought about the one project because I know that is many women, they living in a home and they lost their lives so much in pandemic times. So I think about is maybe we are open the online class in twice a week or once a week, and we invited many different people. Is the politicians, lawyers, teachers, activities, and we shared our life and we teaching to each other to another skills and improved our skills, women, because this is really important that there is a woman, because usually women is think about we only care families and the cooking is in our home, and women is not to have much time, so they reading book or they improved their skills in a time. So that's why we are many women is always is a weakness skills then and so that is really problems, because we always say that women and men's equality, we shouted, but if we don't improve ourselves, our skills or some knowledges, we cannot equality to men, in future. So good important
Yeah.
we women also learning again. So it's alone learning in a home, that is really boring and don't know too much how can I work, what kind of a subject do I learn. So maybe we are opening the online classroom and we sharing the different subjects and we learned together. So that is, I think about my project, but I'm just think about more carefully and make my plan. Yeah.
That's excellent. Jihyun, it's been such a pleasure to chat with you today, and you've been generous with your time and what you've shared with us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. It gave to me this opportunity, and I'm really happy joined to this poet. Yeah. Thank you.